Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick, and I've got Joe Bartnick and Josh Yowie alongside. And guys, just so everybody knows, we're in our new little comfortable digs. So we're hoping to use this more often. But the Penguins don't call it a comeback. They have all of a sudden got behind the hot goaltending of Tristan Jarry, of course.
They sure have, Corey. And I was sitting in my perch in the press box on Saturday afternoon when the Penguins were polishing off the Devils, Joe. And I just, as I do, I looked at the standings because I kind of have stopped looking at them lately. And I said, Jesus, they're only 4 points out of a playoff spot. Is that right? And like, yeah, oh, wow. Now it's 6 points. And I realize teams have games in hand. And I'm not suggesting they really have a chance to make the playoffs. They would pretty much have to run the table. But given where they've been, it got my attention. And I have to say this, Joe. Not only is this team really playing hard, but like the teams they just beat, those are like 3 playoff teams and a team in St. Louis that is very much in playoff contention. Those weren't bad teams they just handled. It is kind of impressive and surprising what they've done.
It's been very impressive and very surprising. We're actually back into computer graphics now on the NHL Network and ABC. Yeah, you hate to be so low that you don't even bother to type your name in. So that was great. I mean, just tap to the stick to Tristan Jarry.
Yeah.
Anyone who doubted, and I'm one of them, his inner fortitude or his, will to play hard. No, it's there. And one thing you've never heard happened this week, 2 things. One, Tristan became a battler. He was battling for saves, battling to stop pucks. The other thing that happened was Mike Sullivan had nice things to say about him 4 days in a row.
Well, he did. I've heard a lot of people on social media, wherever, have said, yeah, when the games don't matter, that's when Tristan plays well. And I understand what people are saying. I get it. And there might be something to that. But I will say this, Joe. These games matter to Tristan Jarry. Like, his career's on the line here. There's actually an enormous amount of pressure on him. And there has been ever since he came back a couple of weeks ago and played the first game against Flower in Minnesota. Because if Jarry showed up for a 3rd stint this season and shit the bed again, okay? Like, when's he going to be in the NHL again? That's a very valid question. And so to me, that's a special kind of pressure. That's not just trying to get my team into playoff position. That's like trying to justify my spot in the National Hockey League and trying to stay here. That's real pressure. And I give him a lot of credit. Not only are the numbers great, but he's passing the eye test, Joe. He just looks at ease. He looks relaxed. He's not playing the puck too much. He's not, he's on his angles. Just everything's working for him. I give him total credit.
The eye test is key, Josh. You know what he is doing now? He's looking large in net. He's standing up top in the blue paint, which you can tell instantly and he's stopping the first shot.
Well, that goes a long way.
Let's not ignore how important that is.
It's hard to start the game 1-0 down every single, first 3 minutes of the game.
We did the opposite, actually.
But it's, he's just looking big in net. He's looking, and that's how you can tell, like, within the first minute, if he's back in the crease, it's like a sign of lack of confidence. It's like he's already worried. When he's he's up top, standing tall. He's just everyone's a better goaltender because it's just by whatever the physics or whatever geometry is, Corey.
Yeah.
There's less to hit if you're in, whatever that is mathematically.
I failed all those classes, but I mean, there's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So did I. But no, it's a good point, Joe. I even in the Minnesota game, I'm there in the press box in Minnesota and I'm watching him and I'm thinking to myself, like, he's making this look easy. Pucks are just banging off of his shoulder. Well, there's a reason for that. That goalies are supposed to make it when they're locked in and playing well. They don't make many highlight reel saves because they're challenging shooters. They're on their angles and pucks are supposed to just bounce off of you essentially. I don't know why all of a sudden he's making it look so easy, because even in his most recent stint in the American Hockey League, he wasn't good. He gave up 13 goals in his last 3 games in Wilkes-Barre. So I don't know if this is just a mirage and he's going to get shelled by the Islanders tomorrow night. Anything's possible, but it looks like he figured something out, at least for the time being.
That's a great point right there, though. He has made so many shoulder saves.
Mm-hmm.
That means he's in the right position and he's square to the shooter, and they're hitting his shoulder.
Yeah.
And by the way, DeSmith and or Ned can't make a shoulder save because it's in the net because they're 5'11".
Right.
I mean, if anyone wants to just say, "Oh, size does matter in net."
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
don't care how athletic you are.
No, of course it does. No, and Jarry is a big guy, and I always say this. I've said this a million times on this show. I am not an expert at analyzing goaltender technique. I'm not. I just it's one of the hardest parts of my job. I wasn't a goalie. I don't know. Is Andy Kyoto a good goalie coach? I don't know. I don't know from the technical standpoint. It's hard to say. But I do know that when Tristan gets up a lot of goals, his ass is pretty much in the net. Like he is always so deep in his crease when he struggles, and we're not seeing that right now. And oftentimes, it's not so much. It's not like the Penguins aren't telling him to be aggressive. It's just a confidence thing. When you don't have your confidence, it's like in real life. You become defensive. You back up a little bit. You back away from whatever it is that is a problem. And it's like that for goaltenders. He's not doing it right now.
The other thing is our defense has gotten better. It's playing better. There's still their 2-on-1s. There's still, the penalty kill has not looked like the 1977 Canadians either.
No.
He's made some good saves. He's made some big time saves that he was not making, that Ned sure shit wasn't making, and the other kid wasn't making. Joel was not making.
Yeah.
He's making some big time NHL saves, which is what this franchise has needed since October.
He is. And this stretch right now, I know it's only been 4 games, so I don't want to make too much out of it. But it is so reminiscent of last season when they went on that run, because Ned wasn't really playing great in those games, but he made big saves when he needed them. That was one of the keys, and they were just scoring a ton of goals.
Yeah.
So here we got 7 goals the other night against the Devils. They had 5 goals against the Blues, and only the first 3 were you got Ryan Graves scoring goals, for God's sake, and the bottom 6 scoring goals, and multiple defensemen scoring goals. So all of a sudden they're getting
the rusty nail with 2.
Of course. I mean, there's coming up with offense from everyone, and they look like a hockey team, like a functional team. It's just like last season. It's the same thing. I'd probably bet on them to win tomorrow. They're feeling good about themselves. Do they really have a chance to make the playoffs? No. I mean, realistically, there's nothing that tells me this team's capable of like a 13-2 run to end this season. I just don't see it. But it makes the games people don't want to admit it, but I'm telling you, they were looking at the scores the last couple of days just a little harder. Like, maybe if the Rangers and Blue Jackets lose a few, and Penguins play the Blue Jackets on Friday, like your mind starts thinking that way when there's a little bit of hope. And they've looked like a functional hockey team. They're healthy. They're doing some good things right now.
You can always look back and just how many 2-goal leads we blew in October and November. That's what makes me sick. If we're going to end up 3 points out, which we probably will end up being 3 points out as always.
I think, Joe, didn't you say something? I mean, you said you can lose the Stanley Cup in October, you can't win it, but you said, but I think this year you were talking about that, and you sasaid, I think we can lose the playoffs in October.
Yeah, I mean that's like my second or third T-shirt.
Yeah,
you can't win the Stanley Cup in October, but you can lose it.
It's true.
The bottom line is they're fun to watch right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just good hockey. If you're a hockey fan, I'm going Tuesday, which will probably end the winning streak. I hope Jarry's in that too.
Oh, I'm sure he will be.
Yeah, good. It should be fun. I just love what the new guys have added. I was a big Dewars guy. I didn't know why Dewars wasn't playing that much in Toronto, whatever. And then Timmins, definitely a top 6 guy on our team.
Mm-hmm.
And, what is Treliving doing? They needed those 2 guys more than they needed Lawton. I mean, if you ask me, I'd rather have Dewars on the 4th line and Timmins, is a 5th or 6th or 7th defenseman than having Lawton skating around.
No, Dewars has really added something. And, he wasn't doing a lot this season in Toronto. I guess he was pretty good in Minnesota the year before.
Absolutely.
I think he had 9 goals in 50-some games. I mean,
he plays a tough game.
Oh, yeah. He understands his role. He knows he's a bottom 6 guy. He knows what he's supposed to bring to the table. Small sample size, yes, but it's hard not to be impressed with what he's done. And Timmins is a guy I've always liked. I think he's a legitimately good 3rd pairing defenseman. He handles the puck fine. He's a big guy. He's not overly physical, but he doesn't shy away from it either. I've always liked him. I thought it was a really shrewd pickup to get both of those guys. Yeah, the Penguins have a lot of other holes, but those might be guys who, for the foreseeable future have legitimate roles on this team and those depth roles, and that's fine. You don't want to just throw up anybody from Wilkes-Barre in those roles. If you can have somebody reliable, that's a great thing. So, and you're right, Joe, the Penguins are fun to watch right now. They're playing hard. Like, there was a sequence in that game against the Devils, like Rusty was literally throwing himself at pucks on the penalty kill. I'm like, I gotta say, this guy's won his cups. He's got his money. He's playing on Sid's line. He's playing the best hockey of his life, and he's still like, just throwing his body in harm's way constantly. You got to respect that. And I want to say one other thing too. You'll see it tomorrow night, Joe. Most of these games aren't sellouts right now because, listen, the Penguins are not in a good place in the standings. The tickets are expensive, whatever. But what I have learned in the last month, the crowds have been great. You know why? Because tickets are being sold for cheap. You're getting the blue collar fans who don't always have the money to go to games, quite honestly. They're the real fans in a lot of cases.
Yep.
And they're going to games. They're making noise. It's actually a great hockey crowd. You're going to love it tomorrow.
I am going to love it. I can hear on television that it sounds like a full house of energetic fans,
Yes.
even if they're down like by 2,500. But that's who you want in the building.
Yes.
Let the people who want to be there, not the people who are there to make a business deal in between periods, who can't even get to their seats in time.
And that's what, honestly, not that I compare cups because all cups are great, but the 09 cup, like that run of 08, 09 was so much different than 15, 16 because they didn't quite jack the prices up yet. You know what I mean? Like it was a much more corporate vibe with the 15 and 16 cup or 16, 17 cups, where 2009, like that whole run, it was just when Sid came and, everybody,
Yes.
it was the student rush program was still real. It was still a $20 ticket that you could wait outside for. And, it's just the real hockey fans, when they're in there, it makes a palpable difference on TV.
You know what I would say? The best crowd in that building I ever experienced was, I don't know if you guys will remember this. You might. Right after the lockout in 2013, but before the season started in January, the Penguins played a scrimmage. It was just so everyone from training camp was still there. So 20 Penguins against 20 Penguins, and they did it at PPG. I think it was Consol Energy Center then. And they let everyone in for free just because they felt bad about, the lockout, whatever. And they let about 2,000 more people into the building than the fire department would have preferred. But they didn't want to turn people down or kick them out, right? Like, geez, we've been locked out for months. The fans are upset. So there were like, I'm estimating maybe 21,000 people in the building that night.
Wow.
It was the greatest crowd. You felt like you were at a Stanley Cup final game because people just were, so in love with that team. They were so good then. And they missed hockey for all those months, and they just wanted to be there. So when people are in the building who aren't all from Fox Chapel or Peters Township or Sewickley or whatever, it makes a difference. It really does. And nothing against those people. Their money is important to the franchise's survival. I understand that. But there's been a little more of a blue collar feel in the building. That's a good thing.
Well, what I've seen, and it doesn't make for the loudest crowd in a game 5. But I love it on a Tuesday night. I see tons of kids at the game, and that's just fun to see. Yeah. I love seeing kids. Like I think it was Potash, maybe it was the young lady, whoever they were interviewing after the game the other night. And there was a little black girl with, her $75 stuffed animal.
Yeah.
So it had the price tag on, it's like, hey, don't lose that.
Yeah.
Don't drop that.
No,
shaking it, having fun and dancing behind the interview, like after the Penguins. It was just so great. Like that girl's going to be a Penguin fan forever.
Well,
it's just the best.
The Penguins have always been ahead of the curve on having kids at games. And a lot of that started with the student rush program in the late 90s, really. The Penguins were so smart then. It's like, you know what? We're going to let all the college kids in for $20 because in 10 or 15 years, most of those college kids are going to be successful business people, whatever. They're going to have their own money to spend. And guess what? They're going to love the Penguins because we're going to let them in for $20 to playoff games or whatever. And then I don't know if they were the first team to run a program like that. I know that they may have been. They were certainly one of the first. And it was just so smart. And they've always, I think, it's always been a youthful crowd there compared to Pirates or Steelers games, I find. But yeah, you're right.
Well, crowd means it's not a Pirate game.
Well, that is a good point. I was waiting for that. You're right. But even Steelers games are kind of an older. It's a weird crowd at Steelers games. It's definitely an older an older element to the crowd there. But Penguins have always had the market cornered on younger people in Western Pennsylvania, at least in the Crosby era for sure. But yeah, I'm telling you, the crowds lately, phenomenal. I mean, the energy it's weird. You look at where they are in the standings, you think, gee, but it's because they don't always get to go to games, and it's cool to see.
Well, exactly. And that's why there's the ludicrous notion out there, like, oh, if we win, well, then we're losing a place in the draft. It's like, yeah, you want to win, especially at home.
Yeah.
And you think like you're gonna go tell Sid and Gino, hey, don't play so hard.
Yeah.
You think Russ isn't gonna play hard?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Carlson might. Oh, good. You want to lose this one? Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, I could give up a couple breakaways if you want.
I actually just wrote a column at The Athletic. Was posted a couple of hours about this. Like, everybody's freaking out. Oh, Jarry's screwing the season again, or oh, don't they know they're supposed to be tanking? Well, you go tell them they're supposed to tank. Then what do you go tell Mike Sullivan? You should be coaching this team to lose. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Now they might have the 7th pick instead of the 5th pick. I mean. Really? Now they have a 6% chance for the top pick instead of a 9% chance. Like, but okay, I think it's more important to continue having something of a winning culture or expectations. And I know people in the organization feel that way too. You can tank if you want. How's tanking going in Chicago right now? I mean, yeah, I understand tanking has its benefits. I always say the Penguins didn't tank in '84 as much as you think. They were really just that bad. Like, yeah, they tanked too. But you got to be careful. There's no Mario Lemieux in this draft. There's no Connor McDavid in this draft. You want these young guys, when they are drafted, to come to Pittsburgh and to still have certain expectations and to be around people like Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust and Evgeny Malkin who really care about winning and really put the work in to win. So maybe that'll cost you a couple of spots in the draft. That's okay.
Yeah. And besides telling Sid and Gino and Rusty not to play hard, I've been telling like Danton Heinen, who if he doesn't look good, he's gonna be riding a bus next year.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's like those are the guys that are really gonna play hard. The guys that know their career's on the line. You think Jarry's gonna be? Hey, you know what? I don't want to. I want to lay down because I don't want to be here next year.
Right.
I'm hoping we get the first overall pick for somebody else that's going to goaltend for them.
And that might happen anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't try. Like I would say, you can have the worst record in the league. You still have a 25.5% chance to get in the top pick. Chances are you're not getting it anyway.
Yeah.
There's a 75% chance you're not getting it anyway. Tanking. And I also looked this up from my article, Joe. In the last 16 years, only 2 players who were taken first overall have won the Stanley Cup with the team that drafted them. Aaron Ekblad, Nate McKinnon.
I was going to say that would be a good trivia question.
And Florida didn't really nothing against.
Yeah, it's not because of Ekblad.
He's a good player, but I mean, yeah, they would have won the cup without him. I'm sure.
Juice.
Apparently, he does. Yeah. Think about that though. So really, the only star player who's been drafted first overall in 16 years to win the cup with that team is McKinnon. So it's not which isn't to say that you wouldn't like to have McDavid or Matthews or great players. Yes, they haven't won the cup yet. Maybe they will. It's not some automatic, all right, you're going to win the cup in the next 6 or 7 years. It's not. It's not that simple. I assure you, developing players and making good personnel decisions is a hell of a lot more important than winning the draft lotto. Yeah, that's great. But that's not the only way to win a championship or to build, a great era of hockey for a franchise.
Well, let's face it. If you have the number 1 pick, you're usually not a very good franchise. So you either have to be monumentally that good, like Sid or McKinnon.
Right.
And look how long it took Ovi. You have to be that level, or you have to be surrounded by such incredible talent, which these other teams have not put it together.
Right.
I would like to talk about something that is happening on the ice. I don't know if you guys have seen it creep in. I think it's because he cares. He cares. Gino back to taking the 2-3 just bad offensive zone penalties a game. It's like vintage Gino, but I can see in the box.
Still playing good,
but that's vintage Gino, though. I mean, that really is vintage Gino.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself on Saturday, like, Gino wants that top draft pick. Jesus, he's like trying to sabotage this game. You know what it is with
Or
Gino?
he has Wi-Fi in the box. Is he went to see Burr's special?
I bet he would like Burr, as a matter of fact.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
Come to think of it. No, Gino, you know what it is with Gino? Like, since the 4 Nations, he's really had his legs. When he has his legs, he starts doing stuff like I think he reverts almost because I can be Gino again. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's part of the Gino package. You do have the 6 penalty minutes, as we saw the other day. He's actually been really good, but yes, we are getting, because he hasn't been doing as much of that this season.
No, and I watch everything with a microscope. I think he only took 2 really bad penalties until about a month ago.
I believe that.
And now he's taken probably 8.
Yes.
3 on Saturday.
Well, no, it was a double minor. So,
Yeah.
it was unfortunate. But you know what? And I think I've said this last week, or at least recently somewhere. For a superstar, for a drop dead Hall of Famer who's been all these national games we've had lately, he's really getting slurped up by everybody, which of course I love seeing. I think everybody does. He gets no help from the referees as far as you're gonna really call that little hacky tap on the forearm. I mean, really,
It's true. We've seen that.
I'm not saying it wasn't a penalty, but the guy made the pass. It didn't turn into a Penguin scoring chance immediately.
No, that's fair. And another thing for Gino, with all due respect to Phil Tomasino or Danton Heinen or Cody Glass before them, whoever, Sid's the one who gets to play with Raquel and Rust every game.
Right.
Gino's not hitting the line mate lottery this
No.
season. And I will say this for Gino. I'm around him a lot. I mean, on the record, off the record, he has never once complained about who his line mates are. Not one time. He will just go out with whoever, a lot of future Hall of Famers aren't like that. Like Sid doesn't complain about his line mates at all. But I know Sid has like very strong opinions about it. He and Sully they've argued over the year. I know for a fact Sid didn't really like playing with Hornquist that much. Sully loved him with Hornquist. So they would sit in Sully's office and they would argue about it for a long, long time. Gino's not really like that. Not that Gino won't, complain about certain things, but he doesn't mind. He'll play with Phil Tomasino. He'll play with Danton Heinen, whatever.
Isn't it a great thing though? Don't you think it's like just Gino's ego that he can just make everybody better anyway?
Maybe that's part of it.
Hey, I'll just go one-on-one. I don't need you.
And you know what? I think in a way, Gino is easier to play with than Sid. Like a lot of guys can't play with Sid.
Right.
You either get it or you don't. And that Rusty's always understood how to play with him. Raquel too. Ricky and Raquel keep getting better and better together. Like the chemistry that we see between those two,
off the charts.
Oh my God! I mean, it's really starting to grow.
It's more than Rusty, actually.
Might be.
I think Raquel has more God-given ability or natural ability. I mean, no one works harder than Rusty.
Right.
This leads us to the $1 million question, Josh. Because I love Tomasino. I think he's working great with Gino.
Yeah.
When is Tommy Novak coming back?
Going to be a little while longer.
I wanted to see Gino centering Novak and Tomasino. With Novak
skating at all.
And then Gino was when he was a winger, but Novak center. I mean, if that's next year, that's going to be awesome.
Could be interesting. I came here straight from Cranberry, and I can tell you Novak did not skate today.
No,
so it certainly doesn't sound like he will be available
for a block shot. But as Artie says,
didn't even look
out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. So. Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing him, but I want to see more of him because the skill level is certainly there. The skating ability is certainly there. I'm curious to see what he brings to the table. But yeah, I mean, Tomasino, and we should talk about him because he's one of these guys. Like he's only 23, I think.
Yeah, he's
really
young. Yeah, like the skill level is there. You can absolutely see it. I don't really understand why Nashville gave up on him as abruptly as they did. He seems like he's got a good attitude. He works hard, and he scores a lot of goals. Like when he scores, like whoa, you can see the hands in play. I'm very curious to see how he develops. The only thing with him, he's one of those guys. Like he's a top 6 style player. I don't know how much he helps you in a quote unquote bottom 6 role, even though the game has certainly changed a little bit and guys like that can play in bottom 6 roles. So I'm curious.
Well, I just think he's just earned Gino's line mate. I think he has a chemistry with Gino, and I think he's easily in the next pairing of good offensive wingers. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you just want to spread the wealth and have him on a third line, that begs me another question. And I wish I knew this off the top of my head because I wouldn't sound like an adult. But is Hayes signed for next year?
Yeah, I think one more year.
Okay, because if not, whenever he has to not play as much. I like Hayes. I don't know him personally. I like him. He's been playing hard. He kills penalties. But it's time to move on. Especially in the number 1 power play, which he's playing pretty good on. I'm not trying to knock the guy. I'm really not trying to knock the guy at all. But you know what he is. if we are going to not we're not going to make the playoffs, and we do want to see younger people. He's the first guy that should maybe not sit on the bench, but doesn't have to be number one power play, and maybe be the fourth line center.
Right? Yeah, he's just so slow. I mean, that's the issue with him. He does everything else fine. He is around for one more season, but that's one of the fun things. Even if we ignore the standings and consider the fact that they have almost no chance to make the playoffs, it's fun this time of year to isolate on certain players and just kind of watch them every game and that's what the coaches are doing right now too, and getting a feel for next season and beyond. Because there are some interesting players in this lineup, whether it be the new guys that were just acquired. Obviously, those three guys we're all interested in, guys like Tomasino. Yeah. We can certainly learn some things just by watching them every game. You almost don't want the season to end, and there's only 13 games left because there's still something worth watching.
Oh, I never want it to end.
You never did.
I'll watch them. I love when they play in June. What's funny, and I'll bring up your, I don't know what would be, not competitor, your buddy, but Matt Venzel.
Oh, he's all right. I like that.
Yeah, no, because
He's good people.
I had to find like the 8th page of the Post Gazette. No wonder why it's like no one ever buys one. the front 10 pages were the Pittsburgh freaking Pirates. The Penguins were in a corner so small, like if your wife ripped off like a little piece to like write a note down, it was gone. You missed the and they won 7-3. What are the Pirates doing in spring training? They hope it rains. That's how bad they are. And they did have something about the Steelers, which I understand. But anyway, on like page 8. He had a thing. He is one of his things. He did have like 2 pages. It's great stuff. But he was saying how much, and it hit me in the soul, how much he doesn't know Boko Imama is a NHL player. But boy, is it fun when he's out there and he always does something. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the man. And what are they, 4-0 since he's been inserted back in the lineup?
I think those guys too can be, kind of refined into NHL players that are effective on championship teams in a fourth line role. Like something like that, like down the road. You're not saying it's going to be him, but you're looking at those guys and like, all right, let's sift through who. But like somebody like that brings energy.
I've seen
that's winning hockey.
I've seen no one take a run at 87 since he's been in the lineup. Sure, I mean, yeah, that's a real thing.
No. 1,000. Here's the thing. Even if, you're playing San Jose, you're playing the Kings, he enjoys the beach, he eats the popcorn. When you're back in the old Lester Patrick division, you have him on the ice.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
But no, I agree. He brings some energy. That they've had far too many bottom 6 guys
that do nothing,
who do not bring energy, who do, there's too many. Danton Heinen's been okay. So he scores just enough where you can live with him sometimes. But guys like that are just you don't even notice him.
And Dan Heinen is a poor man's top 6.
Yes. Yeah. He's a top 6. He's a top 6 guy on a bad team.
He's the Aldi's version.
Yeah.
He is. He's okay.
He's Gino's line mate this year is what he is.
There are certainly worse NHL players than him, but you're not winning a Stanley Cup with Danton Heinen in your top 6.
Or in your top 12, to be honest with you.
Correct.
Yeah. So what I know it's a crazy thought, but 89 points is probably what gets the Penguins into the playoffs. And I saw somebody, everybody was like, whenever you tweeted out, don't call it crazy, but or you said something like, don't look now, and I'm not saying anything, but the Penguins are 4 points out of a playoff spot. And then I read through the comments to see, like, I wonder what people are saying. And there were some good, somebody said, well, they'd have to get to probably 89 points. They'd have to go to like 11-0-1 over their final 12. I don't think it's insane. And maybe they end up 3 points short, but like, what if they win 4 more? You know what I mean? What if they win 3 more, 2 more, get 6 out of the next 8 points?
Points though, Corey, doesn't seem like a lot. Doesn't seem like enough.
Not for the East this year. It's so bad.
That's why.
It's that bad.
It could.
I think the problem is, and I'm not the first person to think this, these have like 6 teams to climb over.
Yeah.
And they're all going to play each other. And that means they're going to be between 2 and 3 points handed out every night.
Yeah. I mean, Corey, with all due respect, I think it is crazy to think that they have a chance to do it just because of that. But also, they're going to lose. I mean, I just.
You think they're going to lose more than one?
Come on. I see no evidence that this team is capable of stringing anything together. I will say it will get interesting. Maybe a little more interesting. Let's say they beat the Islanders tomorrow night, which certainly is possible. Game after that's against Columbus in Pittsburgh on Friday night.
Phil Kessel bobblehead night?
I think it is, yeah. you win that game, that's one of the primary teams ahead of you that you're chasing. If they win those two and you've won 6 in a row, I think at that point it's fair to look at the standings like, because at that point there's 11 games left. All right, if they go 9-1-1, is that enough to have, something like that? I mean, listen, why not? I asked Sully about it after the game Saturday, and he said, "Yeah, we're aware of it." And he said, "We look at the standings every day. We know we haven't given up. Or we're good." He said, "Anything can happen," and he's right. Anything can happen. I'm not to the point where I think it's something to get overly excited about just yet, but we cannot overestimate how much these sucks. I mean, it's a terrible conference.
And I think that's my point, is that like we're literally maybe a week away from being like, oh shit, like this, like we may actually have like a 1 in 8 shot at making the playoffs, which is greater than we improved the other day from not on the radar to 0.1. And then from 0.1 to 0.2% chance.
I saw that.
So, it's not often you double your chances.
It's just like last year. That's about what their odds were, that game in Denver. There was a Sunday afternoon game. I think it was March 24th last year.
Yeah, I was in Philadelphia watching it, and they were up 4-0 and lost 5-4.
Right. But even that game, though, was when it started. They got the point. They came home. They got hot. At that point, I think they had like a 1% chance to make the playoffs, and they were very much in the running in the last week of the season. So it's happened before. You cannot deny the parallels, but I would caution everyone not to get too excited.
I think the problem is, though, and I think Detroit and Montreal and the Islanders all look like they were just going to fade away.
Yes,
especially after what they did or didn't do at the deadline. And who would think Mrazek would come in and and play like Hasek?
Yeah.
So like they didn't go away. Montreal somehow. Who would think that when we beat them like 9-1 or whatever that Friday night, that they would be ahead of us at some point? So I think that's the problem. And somehow the Islanders won't go away.
They never do. That's the thing with the Islanders. They never go away.
Peskiest, most annoying franchise.
It looks like Ottawa's separated itself a little bit. They certainly look like they're going to get in. And Columbus all of a sudden looks a little shaky. Who knows? But above all else, I give the Penguins credit just for playing as hard as they have. And there have been some games like that game in Colorado a couple weeks ago. They should have won that game. They all played the Avs that night. Other than the game in Vegas where they were just horrible. You can't deny that they've been impressive, and they're doing it, against Minnesota, which is probably going to be a playoff team. Vegas, definitely a playoff team. Jersey, definitely a playoff team. St. Louis playing really well. I mean, so these aren't bad teams they're doing it against.
No, I am happy they are. Obviously, I'm happy they're winning. But I will say that, and they've played a better brand of hockey. They're getting better goaltending. They're getting up and down the lineup. I think their defensemen are like, not only are the big two defensemen playing better, or at least more conscientious, I think they have a few better guys. And they're the guys that name who I can't say from Utah. He's definitely better than what they had up there. Grizzlies still playing pretty well. And Timmins is definitely an upgrade over whoever they were throwing out there. But Minnesota didn't have Kirill. I think we're even with the Bluesers, and who else did we shellac?
You got a backup goalie against Vegas.
Vegas backup goalie. But who did we just beat?
Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes was not playing, and neither was Dougie Hamilton. So.
Very true. Oh no doubt.
I'm not trying to.
No,
I mean, Jack Hughes is one of the 5 or 6 most exciting best centers.
They've caught some breaks, no doubt. Although my biggest takeaway from what I've seen the last few games, like even though the Penguins have their defensive deficiencies, we all know that when they get good goaltending, they're okay. Like that's what I mean. The goaltending. I know they were facing 2-on-1s and the defense was terrible for much of the season. I'm not denying that. I know, but the goaltending just destroyed them in the first half of the season. You just don't come back from that when it's that bad. 3 quarters, whatever.
Yes. No, I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I'm just saying it just turned around like a week and a half ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you're getting 890 save percentage, you're not going to be in playoffs. That's just the way it is.
I mean, there was a good stretch there for about 2 months where every time a shot went off, you thought it was going in.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And literally just mediocre. What happened? Remember when the year the Devils didn't make the playoffs like 2 years ago when they were a really good team? But everyone's like, if they just had goaltending, look where they would have been, because their goaltending was awful. And I was kidding. I was saying, they wish they had Casey DeSmith. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, and then literally, like, I remember like 2 weeks ago, I go, we're so bad. I want Jarry to come back.
and it worked out.
Lo and behold.
Yeah, wish come true.
Yeah. Speaking of Jarry, like I wanted to get your guys' opinions real quick. You know, again, people were like, "Don't he's ruined the tank." I'm like, somebody might take him off the books this summer. I don't care if we get anything back for him, but do you think he's played himself to a position where, as long as he's okay from here on out, there's going to be a GM that says, like, you know what? Yeah, we'll take at least 70% of that contract.
I do, because I think if you look at the whole body of work, okay, he had a rough year this year. If he comes back and say he wins, he plays 10 more or plays 10 more and wins like 7 of them or 6 of them. Hey, he took his medicine like a man, came back playing good hockey. He corrected everything wrong with him, or most of it was wrong with him. He's been to 2 All-Star games. So they just gave Aiden Hill. I know Aiden Hill has a cup, but Aiden Hill just made the $6 million range.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden Hill is in Patrick Waugh.
Right.
So the cap's going up. I can see Dubas, if he sweetens the deal a little bit, being able to move him. I really do.
It only takes one.
Yes.
It only takes one general manager. That's the single most important facet of what we're seeing from Jarry right now. And you're right. He makes a little over $5 million. That's not that much. I mean, it's a significant amount, sure. But goalies are making a ton. The cap goes way up starting July 1st. We cannot ignore that. He's got only 3 years left on his deal now after this one, so a lot better than 5. I'm trying to do a sell job for the Penguins here. It's possible. And if he plays like this the rest of the year, he can get his save percentage back to 900 for the season or in that range. Stranger things have happened.
Hey, Mrazek is back playing in Detroit. Literally.
Hey, he always plays well against the Penguins, so I always think he's good.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean,
anybody can.
My buddy Frazier to take a bridge, because what they do at the deadline, they got, I guess this should be our second segment. They got rid of Veleno to get Mrazek and Craig Smith.
Brutal.
You know, just to do a little more Penguins real quick.
Yeah.
I think the bigger problem is probably going to be, what the hell are they going to do with Nedeljkovic?
He might not be tradable right now.
I don't think he's tradable at all.
I don't know if he's playable either. That actually kind of brings me to the next point, because I have a comment here from somebody, and then I'll answer the question real quick. Hello, gentlemen. Is Miroshov going to come up if he gets to 10 wins? He's not coming up yet, but but Jason, I appreciate the comment. He's not coming up yet, but I wanted to bring that up because Ned, like, he's kind of gumming up the works here. Jarry's gumming up the works. I don't know.
Well, if you're the Penguins and you're talking about the future of goaltending, like, I'm telling you, Miroshov's the guy. He's, with all due respect to Blomqvist, who might be an okay NHL goalie, I think you could see that there's still a lot of issues with. He had a great first few games, and that got people very excited, thinking he was the future. I don't really think he is. Now, Miroshov's different, and everything that they should be doing is grooming him to make sure he's getting the playing time he needs at the American Hockey League. I really think the plan is for him to play all of next year and to be the guy if he's ready.
In Blomqvist's defense, it's like between Jarry's play and Ned, it was like we were dating sets of 4s, and then a 6.5 with a nice personality walked in.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, look at this guy. He's the future.
That's a great call. Never started fights or anything. Yeah.
Agreeable, just like
a decent cook.
Yeah, made a nice meal.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
No, you're right. I think that's exactly what happened from the fan base's standpoint. But Miroshov, I think he's won 9 in a row now. And
he's 9-0. He's never lost in Wilkes-Barre.
His numbers at every level of hockey are staggering. You see him play in person, like, his athleticism is off the charts. Joe, the Penguins are really excited about him.
I'm excited about him. Well, then let's just say, for S's and giggles, that Jarry isn't moved.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to go Jarry, Blomqvist, Ned, and Miroshov at Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, I was just going to show you. Look at his stats, Joe.
9-0, 241 goals against, 921 save percentage, and Wilkes-Barre. And
pretty good. Well, Jack St. Ivan, he's clearing the crease.
Those are the numbers he puts up everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a consistency, and I always say this with him: he was taken in the 4th round for political reasons. Like Russia had just invaded Ukraine. A lot of teams were staying away from Russian players. They just didn't think they'd be able to get them over here. And Ron Hextall, of all people with the vision, with the guts to go for it, to take him in the 4th round anyway, might have been Hextall's one great accomplishment as Penguins GM, but maybe he did something good. I don't know, because
maybe it was a mistake and the assistant GM made the pick. I don't give Hextall credit for it.
Would have been asleep during that one.
I give Hextall credit for anything.
But I mean, this kid, a lot of people in the organization are really excited about him. And you know, they don't want to rush him. There are a lot of goalies who, when they play that whole season, they really get a lot of time in the American Hockey League. It's good for them. Matt Murray, Braden Holtby, John Gibson. Like, those are all guys who went on to become terrific NHL goalies who really were seasoned in the AHL. They didn't come right up. And Miroshov, you could throw him in the NHL right now. I'm sure he wouldn't look out of place. But you'd rather bring him up when you know he is ready to go.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, I've been following him, you know, just to like, I was like, oh, like, I think it was probably around when he got drafted, and somebody, maybe it was you, Josh, that made the comment why he got drafted lower. But that's why when he went to the ECHL back down, I was like, I want to go interview him instead of driving 5 hours. I want to do it an hour and a half away, because he's not going to be there long. And if so, shameless, you know, self-promotion of our YouTube page, or on the podcast, you guys can find it. I interviewed the kid, and everyone that's commented on it is like, this kid seems like a gem. And like, and that's the best way I can put it, is like, having met him and like dealt with him, like, he kind of seems like a non-goofy version of Marc-Andre Fleury, like a good personality, just a good kid, you know. And like, and he's got his head on his shoulders, where like, even I'll just say, like, my kids were with me, and my kids were talking to him afterwards, and he was asking them about their careers. And my son said, what does it take to get to where you are? You know, my son's 9, and he's like, you don't need to be worried about that. You need to focus on, you're playing a kid's game. He's like, even when I give up a goal, I'm playing a kid's game, you know? And I'm like, this kid's 20 years old. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh.
He's
No,
and he's living in Wheeling. Jesus Christ, save him,
Wilkes-Barre,
Corey.
no.
well, now he's at Wilkes-Barre.
From Wheeling to Wilkes-Barre, Jesus.
Well,
He's not going to know what to do with himself when he comes to Pittsburgh.
No, don't let them see the lights of Paris.
But no, I cannot emphasize enough that the Penguins really think they have one in him. So I'm curious to see just how the rest of the season unfolds. But the numbers are what they are. The eye test is what it is. And it's not like anybody's blocking his path. Like, with all due respect to Blomqvist or Jarry or whoever's still here, when he's ready, he's ready.
I have one more point, not about goaltending though. I'm more impressed with, you know, Vlad, you know, Crawley, whatever his name is, every day. He looks right at home. You know, he's made a few errors, but who on the Penguins blue line hasn't made glaring errors? Right. I think he's a top 6.
He can skate. He
doesn't shy away from physicality either.
No, he's got the wheels. I like him. The blue line in general. Like, I think Letang's been pretty good lately, but much better. He still does the occasional.
He dipped. Now he's back to being pretty good again.
Yeah, I mean, he's not what he was, but the last couple of weeks, I think he's been much better.
Yes.
Carlson still does the occasional Carlson thing, but as long as he's going to score goals and produce points every night, you kind of live with some of the. Like with him, it's when he's not producing offensively. That's when he really drives you nuts.
Yeah, when he overpasses.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like, that's why you're making the $11 million, dude. Shoot the puck.
The goal he scored against Jersey. Like, not many people can execute a shot like that. That was phenomenal. Like, do that. Why wouldn't you do that all the time?
That slow motion shot from behind, where you're beautiful. Just like, I mean, somebody said, it could have been one of you in this room. Somebody on Twitter, I never remember who says what, but somebody said, like, send this straight to some GM over the summer, and they'll make the mistake.
That's right.
It seems like sometimes I've said this as a joke, but I mean it. It seems like sometimes he plays defense like I do when I don't have health insurance.
Yeah.
Like I see, like he gets out of the way of people.
Yeah.
Like, just stand in their way, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to run him over like Scott Stevens, but you can make them go around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been quite a bit of that, in fact.
Yeah. But you know, we got to talk about Mr. Bill Neofis of the Neofis Insurance Group. And I'm sure Bill has been enjoying Tristan Jarry back.
He has, and he's still reveling in the glow of the Carrot Top performance, right? He's still.
I mean, if you get shouted out by Carrot Top as being his top
I think
fan,
they might just become pals now. I think he might just go out to Vegas and take him out to dinner and stuff. I don't know. It's a real bromance there. But no, Bill's the greatest insurance man in Pittsburgh. My question for Bill, like, here's the thing: Bill's a 66 guy through and through, and Bill goes to most home games. Gonna have to ask him, like, you gonna go see Ovechkin if he has a chance to break the record in Pittsburgh? As Gretzky will be there, and Gretzky and Ovi kind of get Bill worked up a little bit. He's very partial to 87 and 66, so that might be tough for him if he has to decide to, go witness history or just risk being annoyed by having Gretzky in the building. I don't know. But that said, you can talk with Bill about this when you go visit him at Neophis Insurance. They're located in the North Hills. Very easy location to get to, by the way. Whatever your insurance needs are, Bill and his people will take care of you. They'll do it with a smile on their face, and they'll have time to chat about the hockey team for a few minutes too, because they're Pittsburghers. They love the Penguins. So Neophis Insurance, the number is 412-364-3388. And trust me, it is worth the phone call. They make life so easy for your insurance needs. I am firsthand evidence of that.
Since we are going national right now in scope, I don't know if just like we're unearthing old like Rolling Stones tapes, but it does seem like on the internet there's more and more of Gretzky opining just glorious things about Lemieux.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there's more and more coming out of him just really saying how great Mario was. If Mario played without injury or cancer, he would have broke all my. It seems like one comes up every day on my feed from a different source when I don't remember seeing any of this the last 35 years.
I know. I've been waiting that my whole life. But
It's true. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of that over the years. Well, maybe he's trying to get in the good graces of like Canadians again. Everyone's mad at Gretzky and can't. Maybe he's trying to start with the French, get the French on his side.
Yeah.
So I don't think they've ever liked it. They've always been Mario people. But no, to Gretzky's credit, I mean, we all know it. But Gretzky will tell you, from a physical standpoint, Mario could just do things he couldn't do.
Oh, and I always say go find, like, literally go on YouTube and look for a Mario Lemieux highlight video, and then watch a Wayne Gretzky highlight video. There's no highlights.
Yeah, just as someone who's lived out of this city for 30 years, I just never debate it with people because like the numbers are the numbers. So I'm not going to sit here and argue with somebody.
Mhm.
I would say there's the Holy Trinity. You pick whoever you want.
That's right.
And then that's it. But it seems like they're not recent. They're like from 10, 15 years ago. Gretzky has a different haircut. Lemieux's younger, or whatever. It's just fun to watch because since we're going national, speaking of just ultimate superstars. Since it is Monday, it is live. Thanks for watching, listening. We love all of you. It still will be on the highlight reel. It'll still be like you can find it real quick. Go watch what Cal McCarr did in overtime yesterday.
Oh, God.
I mean, are you kidding? That's why, like, I love Big Mac, but McCarr is my favorite player that doesn't play for the Penguins. I love him. He's the only guy I've ever seen skate backwards and catch McKinnon. Like, didn't have to turn around. To me, he's a superhero. And all you know, we're talking about Gretzky. When Gretzky was on the TNT panel, all you need to know is he said that he's the best defenseman since Bobby Orr. He forgot about Paul Coffey.
Whoa.
Well,
or just skipped him.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the doctor.
Yeah. Who does the doctor? Please,
Big Paul Coffey.
Forgive us, Paul.
Like, I will say, McCarr is better defensively than Paul Coffey ever was. He's actually pretty good defensively. He gives McDavid fits. McDavid doesn't like playing against him, so he can keep up with him. Nobody else can.
Yeah.
Now, McCarr is, I don't know what he's 25 years old or whatever. He's put him in the Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah,
he's that good. Like he's
that decorated.
And I hear some people like to compare Quinn Hughes with him. Quinn Hughes is a great player. He's not Kel McCarr.
No,
I'm sorry, he's not.
No.
McCarr, there's nothing that guy can't do.
It's like if Columbus makes the playoffs, I want to give the Norris to Zach Werenski. I think he's had a hell of a year and he's incredible. Let's give it to him this year because it's like the LeBron thing. If you're just saying the best defenseman, you just give it to Cal McCarr every year.
Yeah.
and that's it. It's his award.
No, it really is. It will be an indictment of the Avs if they only ever win one cup. Jordan era when they had McKinnon and McCarr.
No, absolutely.
Because those are clearly two of the 5 best players in hockey right now. And McCarr, for a defenseman, to bring what he does to the offensive side of the puck, and just his overall game. He might be my favorite player in the league to watch too. Nobody else is like him.
The way he broke up that 2-on-1 too. Did you see that one? Like where he just, it's like, that's to me, like expert level defenseman, as a defenseman myself, where you're like, you want to watch somebody, if they're a good defenseman, watch how they take a 2-on-1, like Chris Letang and Eric Carlson.
Carlson's
like, not the greatest 2-on-1, but like that was like expert level, it was phenomenal. And he is unreal. And I think he's the closest thing. I know McDavid is like the star, but I think just knowing with young kids, like nephews and stuff like that, like to talk about hockey, they all talk about Cale Makar. Like he is like the star in the league, in my opinion.
It would be fun if they get another one. It would just be great for McKinnon. It'd be great for, and how about my boy yesterday, Val Nikushkin?
Oh, geez. What a player, huh?
He's just thank God Dallas did let him go, or else they wouldn't even have to have the playoffs this year. They had to cup to Dallas.
I watched that game, and it wasn't as close. I mean, Colorado was the better team yesterday.
Right.
Dallas had a little 30-second spurt where they scored twice, and it ended up going to overtime. But I have concluded, and I already thought this, but I really want to see those teams play, even if it's the first round, whatever. That would be a sensational series. I hope the NHL is smart enough to have all of those games like in the Saturday night primetime window or whatever. America needs to see that series. You will develop some new hockey fans, I promise you. Just the offensive talent on both of those teams, the speed at which that game is played between those two teams. Man, in Colorado especially, those additions that Nelson and Coyle.
Oh yes,
they're a different team now.
Oh yeah, they're strong down the middle, which is what they needed to be.
Yes,
and I like them getting Lindgren too. I mean, I think he's a service. I just think Fox is so overrated in New York, and I think Lindgren just wore out trying to back him up the whole time. But the other thing too is they should be going for that because ESPN, because that's Denver and Dallas are two huge hockey markets.
Mm-hmm.
And like huge television markets, right. And they're not coached by Lou Lamoriello. Like there will be offense. In that it's going to be back and forth. I hope Heiskanen is healthy by then, though. I hope he's healthy for round one because I want everybody at their peak.
Yeah, no, and I made some observations just watching games yesterday. I enjoyed that game, and I stayed up late to watch Vancouver and Utah play. And I got to say, I'm very concerned for our friend Rick. That Vancouver team, they can't score. They cannot score.
I'm concerned for the 4-1-2 and the 7-2-4. I think he's coming east. So I hope Torts is stubborn.
Yeah, don't fire Torts this year, Philly.
And he goes to New York. Yeah, they're done. I'll tell you, how about Logan Cooley looked great in that game? Speaking of the 4-1-2.
He scored the game winner. Man, is he good.
He was flying around, man.
And I was in Utah a couple of months ago just talking with people in the Utah Hockey Club organization. They are in love with him. Like they know they've really got a future star. He should have been the top player in the draft 2 years ago. He's clearly the best player in that draft, in my opinion. He is really on the verge, and for those who don't know, he's from West Mifflin of all places. He's on the verge of becoming a legitimate number one center in the NHL. He's only like 20 years old, 20 or 21.
He's eating his Wheaties too out there. He's looking a little bigger.
He can just fly. Oh
yeah, and me and you both picked Dallas to win the West, which makes us look smart. I picked the Rangers to win the East, so I don't know about that. My pick there. But I also picked the Utah Football Society, whatever they call themselves.
Yeah, so did we.
You picked them to make the playoffs.
So I don't know, Corey, you have to bring out your math skills, but
we both did.
Not as bad. You did pick that. I couldn't remember if it was you or Frazier. I know someone on my team said, but it's not as bad as Penguin mathematics. But they say there's a chance.
Utah,
they're 2 points out.
Yeah,
but they're down a couple games though, right?
The Calgary has 2 games in hand on them, and they're tied. But like
Calgary's
Vancouver and them are tied in games, and they're just down 2 points.
Calgary doesn't entertain me. I can't really cheer for them to get in. Vancouver is. Listen, our friends Jim Rutherford and Rick Tocchet have major issues with that team. Their number one center stinks. I'm sorry.
And he's soft.
He's so soft. And I watch them play. They can't generate offense. They just can't score. I think that, and they have a big Eastern road trip coming up too. I think they are in serious trouble. Utah doesn't give up goals really. They're pretty stingy defensively. They got some veterans on that team, of course, a couple of whom once played in this neck of the woods with guys like Ian Cole and John Marino. They have a pretty good blue line.
Oh, they stole Sergachev. Sergachev's a poor man's Hedman, and that's not even I'm not even trying to insult him.
He's a great player.
They really backed up their blue line, and Vejmelka was good. For a few years, had a bad down year last year. They had the other kid came up and played really well, but Vejmelka they just signed him again for like 5 years. Vejmelka is a good goaltender, and I'll tell you, I've always been a Lawson Krause guy. Clayton Keller is a good player.
Yeah, he is.
Gets no press. He's a good player. They got some guys on that team.
Oh yeah.
I it's like I want them to make it. But then it's like not to look smart. I just think they're fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, who do I want in? I'd almost have to see Billy G go down, but he's not.
Well,
he's
that
not
team's got trouble though.
They do.
They can't score right now. They're so banged up.
I don't know, Kirill. You talk about a team that's just not that good.
Right.
I don't know how they won all those games early. I think Kirill was just going to win the Hart Trophy.
He may have been the front runner.
Friends of mine were like, and I'm like, you know what? You're probably right, but please. Just talk it, just make the playoffs. So you just don't go to Philly. As much as I want Utah in, I just don't want.
And by the way, Rick, talk it for those who don't know. We're not suggesting he's going to get fired. His contract expires at the end of this season. He doesn't have he's free to walk after the year if he wants.
Oh, I thought it was you may have inside information. I thought it's a team option.
It may be. If he wants to walk, he'll walk.
Yeah, well, they said they're not going to hold. They're going to say, "Hey,
right.
if I don't want to be here," they're not going to keep him.
I know he likes it there. I know he has a great relationship with Jim Rutherford. I suspect Jim would pay top dollar to keep him because I know what Jim thinks of Talk as a coach. He thinks the world of him.
If he really respected that much, so don't you think they just would have found a way just to throw Pedersen off a building? I mean, because there's no way that Talkett was picking Pedersen on. You don't have to give out secret information, but I mean, come on. I can understand if it was like some new age coach or somebody. That's Rick freaking Talkett. He certainly doesn't want Elias Pettersson in the Elias Pettersson versus JT Miller war.
I know JT can be a pain in the ass, but I have to think as a player, Rick much preferred what JT brought to the table. Pettersson just disappears. I don't. Everything about there's been speculation that he's hurt maybe or that he's out of shape. I don't think anybody really knows. But ever since he got paid, he's been terrible. He's been anything but a number one center. So and the Canucks were so good last year. They were so much fun to watch. They scored a ton of goals. They took Edmonton to the very brink. They had a great season and they're not capitalizing on that momentum. I was watching some of their game too last night, Joe. Quinn Hughes played 12 minutes in the third period. Rick knows he can't generate offense if Hughes isn't on the ice.
Yeah.
But man, that's too much. I mean,
he is young.
He is, but I'd be surprised if they make the playoffs. I think they're in real trouble.
Yeah. No, I think Calgary's going to make the playoffs because they have a good coach. And they play a system and they have good goaltending.
We know a thing or two about that. And you get good goaltending, it changes everything.
Yeah, I just want less Canadian teams in.
Well, they won't stick around for long.
Yeah.
No, but how much more fun would it be if it was Utah?
Oh God,
much more fun.
Especially in the first season there. The crowds there are unbelievable already. They're really into it. That would be cool.
I think Utah would scare the hell out of Winnipeg too.
No, they could.
And they really could.
I can see them taking them 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, because those guys can score on Halifax.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about it, but Ovi, he's 8 goals away, and it's just not a matter of if, but when. I looked real quick because I checked the other day. So the tickets for the Pens versus Caps is like triple the price of any other Penguin ticket right now.
Wonder why
on the resale value. So.
That will drop very quickly if Ovi breaks the record a week before.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guarantee you there's a lot of DC fans that are buying tickets up right now.
As they should.
I'll be honest. I never thought I'd see this happen. And there's a couple weird angles to this. So how weird is it that he's going to break the goal record, but also he has no shot of passing Sid in points? Like, you know what I mean? Like you never see that imbalance of goals versus assists. Like it's always like, you're getting like, 1.5 assists per goal or something like
That's
that.
Ovi. I always bring up this story though. Like there was one year, I don't know, it was like in November. Ovechkin literally started out the season with like 23 goals and 6 assists or something.
Yeah.
And we always joke in the locker room, we always call that Cy Young numbers. Oh, it's 23 and 6. So I mentioned to Sid, I said, geez, Ovi's having a heck of a Cy Young season. And Sid just kind of thought about it for a couple seconds and he looks at me and he says, if I could shoot the puck like that, I don't know that I'd pass that much either. So I mean, that's what he's paid to do. Now, I will say when people say he's hands down the greatest goal scorer ever, like, no, he's not. And he's the most durable goal scorer ever. But like Gretzky and Lemieux, Mario's the most physically gifted goal scorer ever. And I would throw Mike Bossy in there as well. But even Gretzky was a pass first guy. How many goals would he have scored if he actually just shot the puck all the time like Ovechkin? I'd say the same of Mario, who was as much a pass first guy as he was a shot first guy.
Yeah.
So I'm taking nothing away from Ovechkin. He scored 1,000 goals if you want. The guy's indestructible. He never gets hurt. He keeps going. I'm always hesitant to say he's the greatest goal scorer ever. To me, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is Hank Aaron the greatest home run hitter ever?
No.
It's just the most durable.
I don't think. I mean, was Jack Nicklaus the greatest golfer ever? Maybe. And most people, I'm not a golf guy. Most people say Tiger at his prime was better than Jack Nicklaus. Tiger was.
I don't know about that because didn't Jack finish second? In majors like 40 times or something. I don't know.
My point is just because
of the consistency.
No, I know, but I'm just going. I just threw out the numbers comparison.
Sure,
that's all. Like the numbers say that it's Ovi. I mean, I think it's Mario. I think it's Mario and Bossy. Bossy maybe averaged like 50 goals a year for 7 years and retired. Like right. Bossy was nuts.
Yeah, right. Never had to play in his 30s, which obvious. And one thing I will say for Ovi, the best thing I can say about him, other than the obvious, is numbers. His goal scoring hasn't dipped that much in his 30s. Like he was always kind of the same. Whereas if you look at Gretzky averaged like literally, I think it's 0.8 goals per game in his 20s. And it was like 0.3 goals per game in his 30s. Like a massive drop off in the 90s with his goal scoring. Mario didn't drop that much, just a little bit. Ovechkin just a tiny little bit. So I mean, his consistency is remarkable. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, I mean Gretzky's Blueser days and Rangers days were not draped in glory.
No,
by any means. I mean, definitely Sid, even Gino and Ovi have played better at extended age than Wayne ever did.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, it's almost summer programming, but I think I've said it on here before. If you want to hold, if you want to keep Sid on Mount Rushmore forever, you better hope Ovi doesn't win another Stanley Cup, because I think, and especially to the people who like hockey, but it's not their number one sport. It might be their third. They like football, basketball, or football, MMA, and then hockey, whatever. Because if you look at it, if you're going to say, well, Ovi has the most goals and he has the most hits all time.
It's a combination.
That's kind of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
and the new Sid won all his faceoffs. Well, that's like saying, well, Sid had a good batting eye or whatever. If someone has home runs and RBIs, that's kind of Trump.
It depends on what you value. That's one thing about Ovi. Like he doesn't play that way anymore. He's too old. He can't be that rambunctious. But when I think of him, Ovechkin at his best, I think of the very young Ovi who was just running people through the wall.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was what made him. Yeah, he was a great goal scorer, sure. But it was just that defensemen having to turn their back to go get the puck and knowing he was breathing down their necks. That's what made him different than anybody that I've ever seen. There was a violence to the way he played the game that was unique.
And I think that's what makes him popular. I think that's why he's like, he's a super. That's why he's a superstar. If he just put in the goals and he was a Russian guy, and he wouldn't be Ovi.
Canadians love him because he plays Canadian hockey.
Yeah,
I mean, really, when he was young, especially. No, that's true. And the Mount Rushmore thing's interesting. Like, you're never going to meet anybody who thinks Ovechkin was a better player than Crosby. You're just not. The overall, there's no question with the overall. But even this year, when Ovechkin's having this incredible, Back to the Future year, like Crosby still has like 20 or 25 more points than him.
Yeah.
And Sid's been like not even that great this year for his standards.
Right.
But you break the goal record. I mean, that's a very real thing. That's a record no one ever thought could be broken.
Yeah.
So you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah. I'm just saying you're sitting in a bar in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's the best player of all time? Well, wasn't Ovechkin? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Three cups to one. It's an easier argument. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, I was looking at my phone, so if you're watching, I wasn't being disrespectful. Here's something you should know. John Kelly on a goal call the other night used the buy Sam a drink and get his dog 1-2 as a little tip of the cap to Mr. Lang. So I thought that was way
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
There've been a lot
tap
of people.
stick to you, John.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, in my opinion. I think Sid and Ovi firmly planted themselves at 4-5 all time, especially passing the goal. I think Sid legitimately might pass and be number 2 all time in points. I mean, nobody's going to touch the Holy Trinity, but it's going to be interesting. A little bit of Steelers stuff, because
this is phase 3.
Yeah, this is phase 3. We're changing lines, guys.
Del Boca Vista.
But good Lord, the Steelers do not have a quarterback. Now, I will say this: they did sign Mason Rudolph, and
who saved Christmas by saving the over/under.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right, he did.
Wait, I'll never forget. We were 2 wins away. We're playing 2 and 7 teams. We lost to both in 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, my daughter's not getting any Christmas gifts.
Yeah. No Christmas gifts this year for Joe's daughter, but because of Rudolph, he his nose so bright. But I will say this: I had a friend text me and said, honestly, like Aaron Rodgers, like, what's he get you? Maybe one more win than Mason Rudolph does? Like,
maybe. I have mixed feelings on Rodgers, simply because if you look at his season, he's coming off an Achilles injury last year, and I realize his age. He was actually pretty good in the second half last season, and you look at his numbers, he still threw for almost 4,000 yards and like close to 30 touchdowns. I mean, on a bad team, yes, and he clearly isn't the same player. I still think his ceiling is higher than it for just this season. It's probably higher than anyone else's they could get, which is why they want him. But this is about to become a circus if it isn't already. Like, the longer this goes, it didn't bother me that Rodgers, he didn't sign the first day over. He's being a prima donna. Well, he's got a decision to make. Like, I'm not okay. He can take his time. You don't want this to go a lot further, Joe.
I'm happy with Rudolph. Like I said, he saved Christmas. He saved if that's who we got, that's fine.
And here's the real question. If I can cut you off for a second.
No, go ahead, cut me off, please.
Rudolph, like, let's ignore Rodgers for a second. Say he doesn't sign. Okay. Is Russell Wilson really any better than Mason Rudolph at this point? Would you give Russ $25 million a year when you've got Rudolph? Is it really worth it? I don't think so.
I thought when Rudolph saved Christmas, those 4 games, he was better than anyone that played last year.
Really good.
Yeah.
I mean, he was.
And he knows the offense. And hey, if he's not, and heaven forbid St. Tomlin goes 6-11, then maybe we can get a better team and maybe a new coach. Yeah. So I mean, it's like at some point the damn it has to go one way or the other.
And by the way, the quarterback situation isn't very good in this draft. The 26th draft, it is, by all accounts. There's like 4 or 5 legit first-round guys, and the draft's in Pittsburgh. They can make their little splash if they want. It all kind of makes sense. Whether you get Rodgers or not, I think you have to take a quarterback by next year.
I have 2. One was last year, though. I love that Penix in Washington. I thought he looked like a pro quarterback. People are like, what? You pick him 7 ways? No, now he's playing. So I like the South Carolina. I watch a lot of college football, way more in the NFL other than the Steelers. I really like the kid in South Carolina,
Jackson Dart. Or no.
He's at Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
Whatever it is. But I just have 2 points. And if you heard me say them on the DV morning show, then I apologize, because I think they're very valid points. One is I like Aaron Rodgers. I met a couple times. I've had some drinks with him. He's a cool guy. People hate when you get, well, he was always nice to me. He was always nice to me. If you hate him for his politics, but he can have your football team win, that's just stupid. Right. Second is people, he's going to come in here and bring his own offense. Well, thank God. Our offense stinks. Maybe they won't do the old, hey, it's 2nd and 9. Let's start with screen passing. How's it work since Chuck Noll was the coach. Like, yeah, I hope he brings his own offense. We have 2 good receivers. Let Aaron call all the plays. Thomas just go sit and get a hot dog when the offense is. They shouldn't let anybody who's been with the Steelers the last 10 years call a play if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And now they've got DK Metcalf. Like, I'm to the stage of my life, I just want to be entertained.
Yes.
I want to see Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. I think it'd be fascinating. Like, George Pickens is nuts. Fine. Leave them together for a year because he's also really talented. Let's just see what happens. Like, don't you want it? This is sports, okay?
Yeah.
You want the Steelers to win. I get it. But they're not really winning without him anyway. All these people like, screw Rodgers. We'll go with Mason. Okay. Like, I must be missing something. I'm not so offended by Rodgers. Like, yes, he's a different kind of bird. I mean, he is. That's okay. If people are so offended by his politics, if you knew the politics of most NHL players and most NFL players and you're of a certain persuasion, you'd be very upset. Okay. They're not all that different than Aaron Rodgers. I promise you. He's a little more outspoken. Yes. I just want the circus. I want Aaron Rodgers showing up at Latrobe at the first day of camp on July 26th. I might go and I might attend just to witness the spectacle that it would be.
Well, it's just so funny. Like, it's the Steelers just treated like so much like, I don't want Rodgers because like they take it so seriously. But you're so right. It is entertainment. It's a television show. Right. I want to see Rodgers throwing to the DJ and Pickens. But I go to my dad's gym, a bunch of old guys. I love it. Like we have so much fun. The guy's like, I'm 77. I'm like, you look. I go, you look good. I go, you look good for 77. I go, you look good for 76. But like, you hear stuff in the steam room. Like, I did the eucalyptus machine for 10 minutes today. It's great stuff. But this guy made a great point, and he congratulated me on my point, which I didn't need a pound on the back. But he goes, the whole reason why they drafted Pickett, the mistake was because the Haskins kid died.
Yeah.
He goes, because Tomlin wanted to get a mobile quarterback, but that kid died and it changed all the plans. I'm like, that is really well. Because think about it, they probably would have all this mess. Not that that guy was Michael Vick, but he was a pretty good player.
They certainly wouldn't have traded or drafted him.
And then I said this to the guy. I go, to me, the best quarterback, one of the better quarterbacks we've had, in my opinion, the last 8 years was Dobbs.
Oh,
when we let Dobbs go in, he goes, "You're a smart young man." That's how old he was. Yeah, but it's like, what's wrong with Dobbs? Just signed another contract somewhere. Like, if we had Dobbs this whole time and he actually played, we probably would have been better off than all this crap.
Well, the Kenny Pickett draft pick certainly set them back. I mean, there's no question about that.
Playing him set them back.
And a lot of people will say, well, the Steelers don't know how to develop young quarterbacks. Maybe that's true. All the more reason to bring in Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's going to tell him what to do. Okay, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. There's DK Metcalf. There's George Pickens. Have at it. You got Roman Wilson. Maybe he'll be the guy in the slot this year, after he didn't do anything his rookie year. I don't know. I know nobody's really going to coach Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't need it. And maybe you don't want Arthur Smith, having too much power, right? I'm okay with Aaron just calling audibles all day long. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, because the offense was almost as bad as the guy who was chanted
Canada.
Canada. Yeah.
It was only marginally better.
Yeah. To my eye, which I'm not looking at the all 33s or whatever that tape is. They make it like it's like, like the dead
God.
They make it like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, I can't make an opinion because I haven't seen the all 33.
That's the most annoying thing.
Yeah. It's like, but to my opinion, it looked the same to me.
Yeah.
Right. The same stupid play calls.
Yeah. It pretty much was. And the all 22 cam, it kills me. All you had to do is buy an NFL Plus subscription for $70. And now everybody's like, oh, they screen
an expert now.
They're like, look at those watching the all 22.
It's
like
the tape.
Yeah, I was breaking down film. I'm like, dude, there's a reason that you're on YouTube with like 10 subscribers and not in an NFL room. I think, DK Metcalf, we're undervaluing. I think people out here don't know how good he is, and he's only 27.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was still that young.
He's only 27.
He's really good.
He's a really good player. He seems like he wants to be here. There's 150
really good
million
guy
reasons.
by all accounts too.
I am. If we don't get Aaron Rodgers, though, I am totally say we should trade Pickens because Rodgers is going to know how to throw the ball to he's going to throw the ball to everybody.
Yeah.
Even if they say we're running on second down, he's the audible. He's going to throw the ball. So everyone will get their balls. If not, if it's Rudolph and the chains are on and it's Tomlin BS, Pickett's going to lose his mind.
Yeah.
And I don't want to listen to this from Halloween on. So just trade him now.
And get it over with.
Maybe you get that second round pick back that you traded Metcalf for.
Or a guy that'll just catch the ball and shut up or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That might be for the best, but it all depends on the quarterback situation. But if you have Rodgers.
Oh, I want him all,
just for a year, just go for it and just have fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sellers is that quarterback down in South Carolina.
Okay. Thank you.
And next year's draft, they got to take one in Pittsburgh. That'll be great. And I don't think he'll come out that year, but Arch Manning. Ever since I watched that kid's high school tape, I'm like,
you don't think he'll come out next year? A lot of people do.
I think it's 50-50.
Depends on how good of a year he has.
Exactly.
Probably, right?
If he lights it up and he's like in the Heisman finalist, then I think he comes out. But
last name doesn't hurt his value, of course.
No,
by all accounts, he's really good though.
Well, he's an athlete too. And we can say whatever, even if that white kid comes in who played like a snap last year, they're not going to be like 2-14. They're not going to. Archie will get the number one pick though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who knows? So they're going to have a bunch of comp picks next year because they lost so many free agents. So they're going to have like 3 third-round picks next year. They'll have enough to make a package and trade up if they have to. The draft's like, isn't it a Point State Park, the draft? Which is just funny to me. It's going to be a Yinzer fest. I mean, that's where they're going to get their quarterback of the future. I have very little doubt.
We'll have to do 2 for Talking live from down here and get it in the background because it could be interesting. But it's a bit, I don't know. I mean, it's just so far it's not so good for the Steelers. It's like you showed up to the dance without a date. And that's because you were like, you know what? I'm not going to say yes to this girl because I'm hoping this one asks me. And when she doesn't, then you go back and, never mind. She's not available. And now you're just showing up.
Steelers are showing up at the wedding. They're sitting at the couple's table.
Yeah.
They are.
It's everyone's. I love what the Bengals did. They signed those 2 wide receivers. And they got Joe Burrow. Like
they're just never going to stop anybody on defense. But whatever.
Every game's going to be 41-38. They're going to be fun to watch.
I love watching those games, and I think he's the best quarterback in football.
He's great.
The Kansas City kid can win. He's a winner, and I like the Philadelphia guy. As a human being, he's a great dude. But you got into my head to win one game with. Everyone's the same. Joe Burrow is a winner with a cannon.
Yeah, he's just a natural.
Yeah,
he just is. No, he's great. They're good for them. They don't like to spend money,
and they did.
They just signed on. Chase and Higgins and Burrow making between the 3 of them, they're making like 120 million or something. Hey, for 3 superstars, why not?
And they're gonna find a way to screw it up though. It's the Bengals. They'll bungle it up.
I mean, their defense is horrible, but no, you're supposed to keep your best players. Good for them.
Yeah. So good on them. And we'll see what happens with the Steelers, but we'll see what happens with the Penguins. Who knows? Going undefeated between now and next week.
A week from now,
you called it.
Yeah, we'll be talking. A week from now, we could be sitting here. I could be wide-eyed, big smile, going, "I knew it! I knew it!"
I'll be coming to you from Tampa, like they're 2 points out of a playoff spot. Showdown against the Lightning tomorrow night. Yeah. So who knows?
Jake the Snake's old team.
Yep.
Tampa's. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah. That might be where it comes to an end.
You say we have to go 10-1.
Yes,
that Florida Tampa trip might be it.
Yeah, that might be the one. Yeah, Tampa looked bad yesterday.
They did, but they're.
But
that could be the end of it. But that'll be the end of this show, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for watching.
Nice segue. We appreciate all of you as always, and we will talk to you next week.